It's time for House to Home on your radio. House to Home, where you'll hear from local people who turn houses into homes across the inland Northwest, and how you can too. House to Home is brought to you in part by your friends at Rada Paint and Avista. Here's your host, Clyde Hawsey.
And welcome again to House to Home. I'm Clyde Hawsey, and today our special guest is Guy Gifford with the Department of Natural Resources. Welcome aboard, Guy.
Thank you, Clyde.
Well, you know, when I drove in here, I actually had my sunglasses on, and I think summer is coming along. You know, and on House to Home, we try to fit the time and needs that are taking place that you as a homeowner should be looking at. And on House to Home, we do try to work with the preparation for this, and I'm going to use the word fire season coming on board. Isn't that true right now? I mean, it's that time of the year?
It's that time of year. It's actually already started. Fire season has started. We've actually had over 200 fires already this season, but most of them are small in size and haven't been real damaging, so people really haven't noticed. We've actually lost several structures already this fire season. It's not even July yet.
Really? Well, you know, sometimes it's news reporting, and sometimes we hear about them, but we don't recognize that they are probably just, right next door, Guy?
Yeah, a lot more just right next door,
Yeah.
just small fires. So
well, you know, the first thing about the fire season, you need to become prepared for the season, which means that really you should have started doing this preparation back in April and May, getting the things cleaned up around your home, right? And you brought along some pruning tools here, I see.
yeah, I brought some tools to talk about different tools that people may use and think about which is appropriate tool and how much money they should buy on the tool to do the job.
Well, you know, and if you're going to go out and start protecting your home, again, the dollars and cents that you're working with, it really means nothing. It's how you can get the job done in the best way and prevent it from actually spreading as we actually go into the season itself, right?
Yes, it is.
Some of the tools you have here, you have loppers, I see, and you have even a cheap Guy, a cheap saw that works really well. But again, folks, when you're doing this, get the right tool, enjoy yourself, involve the family, get the kids kind of brought into that particular mode. Would you agree with that?
Get everyone involved. I know around our house, I get the kids out there. We help cut things up, chip things up, and it's a great spring, summer project for us.
Well, you know, one of the things here in Spokane area and around our immediate area, we have a lot of natural trees around us, the pine trees and, of course, the underbrush. And that's really what we're after is the underbrush, because that is a flammable item. And also, I'm going to tell you, as a landscape architect, you're looking at a lot of the junipers. And the junipers are like adding kindling to the base and around the foundation of your home. Am I right?
Yeah, the thing with the junipers is they get affected several ways by fire. One thing about junipers, they often accumulate a lot of dead material inside of them. And from a fire standpoint, we call that kindling. And we get a little ember comes in from the fire. And embers are like matches. And anytime we get a fire, we get all these embers coming in. And they can easily land in that kindling in the juniper, start that on fire, and then start the whole plant on fire. So you don't actually have to have flames near your house for your house to be threatened by wildfire. These embers can travel over a mile. And most people don't realize how far they can travel. And actually, over half our home loss are lost from embers, not necessarily flames.
Really? So what Guy is saying, you have to be aware of what's happening around you. And of course, with the phones anymore, you can even get apps that would pre-warn you of something maybe happening around you. I assume that's available. Does the DNR have that available? I know the Red Cross does.
Not us, but one of the key things is each county has an alert system.
Okay.
It could be called Reverse 911. Each county is different, and they need to sign up for it, though, especially with cell phones. They just can't sign you up like the old days with landlines. You got to program your cell phone and check your county Department of Emergency Management, because each county has that reverse 911 system.
Okay, so that's just another item to add off to your checklist. Again, write these things down, some decent pruning tools, educate your family of what you're doing and get them involved, and then if you can, go in and do this reverse notification alert system on your phone, or even, I assume it even comes through your computer and let you know when things are happening and if it's turned on.
Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, as I indicated in the beginning, it's that time of the year that we're starting to look at the time of the year where fire season has already started. you've been doing some pruning, and you've sent us out here some extra pictures here, and I know Vinny is ready to roll on a few of these pictures. So Vinny, can you help us out and show us some of the pictures that are taking place? And of course, as you look at these, you're going to say, hey, yeah, I didn't realize how the undergrowth starts to grow, but maybe you can give us some background of some of this information here and how it actually is happening.
Some of those pictures are showing how well plants can burn, even if it's nighttime when it's cooler out during fire season. And it can be we can reduce the impact of it, because in that area we want to reduce intensity. We want big flames. We want small flames, easier to put out. And so thinning the trees out or thinning the bushes out so you get some separation between them. So like roads, like a road may stop a fire. We want also roads in the sky, so fire can't go from bush to bush or tree to tree.
As you can see, there's some that even have been thinned out, but even then they actually do burn.
Yeah, and one of the things sometimes on trees like that is what's called ladder fields. Fire can climb grass into the branches or shrubs into the whole tree. And so pruning the trees up, we recommend 10 feet high, but don't prune more than half the tree. So a 12-foot tall tree, only prune 6 feet, because you want your tree to survive your pruning. so you got to plan that a little bit.
Well, planning ahead and identifying what is taking place. I know in a couple of those pictures it was showing the branches were actually, it looked like right at the ground level. That's the tree that's going to the grasses underneath are going to come and spread, and they're going to start gathering, and that's. The whole thing is an actual torch, am I right?
Yeah, we call that ladder field concept. The grasses start the branches and cause a whole tree to torch out.
Right.
We call that individual group torching, and that gives a lot of those embers again that we talked about a little about earlier that can threaten homes as well from a long distance.
Well, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, and again, the Department of Natural Resources folks, they look at the forests around you. We drive down the road and say, oh, isn't that beautifully green? It looks great. But they've identified what's happening here. And, of course, we've had some interesting seasons. We had some droughts going on. And when that happens, the tree becomes weakened, right?
Yes.
And now what happens next is the bugs.
The bark beetles can come in.
You followed my lead. So the bark beetle, there are quite a few trees I'm seeing around that are still showing that stressed.
Yeah, yes, they are. Because one thing about trees, they don't recover instantly. It's just like if we get sick, it takes a little while, even when we're done with the flu, to recover. Same thing with a drought. It can take a couple of years for the tree to get back up, gets reserved back up, so it can fight off those bark beetles. And a lot of times when we're talking about protecting your home from fire in the forest, those recommendations of thinning your trees will actually make your trees more healthy, and they can also survive a bark beetle attack more likely. So you get bang for your buck. Do one task, you can protect your trees from fire as well as from the bark beetles.
That's the thing that, folks, you have to understand. You know, our natural existence is kind of leaning from one step to the next step, and it all ties together in this great big circle of life, you might say. One thing is pretending to lead into the next thing. And with bugs, folks, it is an ongoing battle that you have to be aware of. If you start to see trees starting to turn a different color of a green, which leads to brown in some cases, the pine trees and the fir trees don't get red spider like your actual shrubs around your home. But if they are starting to turn color, then they're having some bug infestation. Go out and take a look at them. Identify, and that's what Guy is saying to us. Beware around you. And if you have a tree that's starting to come down or changing color, get rid of it. I mean, because it does spread, wouldn't it?
It can. The key thing is get some advice. Get some professional help, some professional advice on trees to see what's actually killing my tree. Because we're finding out some other things are going in our forest with a drought, some root diseases, and some secondary insects that are coming out there. So we're kind of trying to figure out exactly what's going on, the best step. Because the tree a long ways from your house, you may not have to cut it down from a bark beetle standpoint, but if it's close to your house, you may want to cut it down because it might fall and hit something. The wind. And so get some professional help to help you set priorities on what's really important or what's something I may do later.
Sure. Well, you know, I have used the Department of Natural Resources, and that's how Guy and I, we've known each other for 25 years, and we've been on some fires with you. But the issue is, you know, don't be afraid to call yourself. And that can be done, Guy, and I know that because you have plenty of people on staff that maybe could help you out and begin to identify that. Is there a number that we can forward to people or information where they can find information
Yes,
answers?
we actually have people on staff. If you have dying trees, they'll come out and
Right.
evaluate and give them a recommendation. If you're concerned about fire, they'll do a fire risk assessment and talk about the
Beautiful.
fire hazards. And it's our Colville office, 509-684-7474. But we all don't live there. I live in Spokane. We
I
have
know you
people
do.
scattered throughout the region. That's just where someone can answer the phone and refer you to the right person in your geographic area.
Because actually the Spokane area is part of the area of Colville. I mean,
We call it the Northeast region, which is 6 different counties.
wow. Okay.
But I work in the primarily in the Spokane County area.
Right. So, again, what we're trying to say is that we may not have an exact answer. And, you know, it never hurts to get 2 answers to the same question.
Yeah.
And that's where I really recommend going with the Department of Natural Resources, because it's a service that they are dealing with full-time, understanding what's happening, and we need to take advantage of that. I think that's real important, because a private contractor, he has one opinion, but let's go to another one and gather that information. So making that phone call is really going to make a big, big difference. So let's take a break here coming up, Guy, and then I want to come back and talk about more care around the yard. And I'm talking about up next to the home, and maybe we can find some pictures. I know you sent them over. It depends upon if Vinny can find them. So for right now, let's take a break, folks. We'll be right on back. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm weather forecaster and assignment anchor at Spokane Talks Online, Colin Pittman, and I am honored to be the host of the new program, Spokane's Youth Spotlight, brought to you by Spokane Talks Online and the Spokesman Review, where we are interviewing and getting to know outstanding youth in our community each month. If you'd like to nominate someone in our community that you think should be recognized, that is doing something great here in the region or has an amazing story, visit SpokaneTalksOnline.com or Spokesman.com and look under Youth Spotlight to nominate. And be sure to tune in each month as we find the best in the Inland Northwest.
Hi, I'm Larry Myers, owner of River Ridge Hardware. Welcome to our garden center here on the corner of Garland and Driscoll. We have fresh plants that come in weekly from all of our local growers. We can make your garden look like our garden. Here at River Ridge, we've been here 30 years. We're your full-service neighborhood hardware store. This is our sprinkler aisle where my knowledgeable staff will help you put together your sprinkler system so it will make your yard lush, green for the spring and summer. This is River Ridge Hardware's rental center where we provide a multitude of equipment for rent for the do-it-yourselfer. Next time you're working on your home or yard this spring and summer, stop by, say hi, and we'll help you get the project done.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
And welcome back. I'm Clyde Hossey with House to Home, and I really appreciate you joining us today. And Guy Gifford of DNR, thanks again. He's got a busy time of the year. He's right in the middle of the fire season, or getting to be close to it. I don't know which one it is. But thank you for coming down. And again, we wanted to share some ideas and some tips on what is taking place within our region. Guy, you know, we were talking about, before we took the break, was looking around the yard, looking at some of the trees, understanding the stress they've been under with the drought. And folks, we have been in a drought here for some time. I don't know the exact number of years. What has it been?
I want to say it's been 5+ years now.
5+ years back and forth. And yes, we're getting extra. Now, here is some of the things that I want to take a look at around your home. And this is a clean foundation. Somebody said, well, gee, I love shrubs. Well, guess what? As a landscape architect, yes, they're pretty, but until you get a fire, but beware of your situation where you're living. Am I correct on that one, Guy?
That is correct. And one of the things is we live in a beautiful area here, but fire is part of it. So we made a choice where we live. We got to remember we made this choice, so we got to recognize the issues we have living in this beautiful country here, and that's fire. And having shrubs too close to your house can be a problem. This picture shows a lot of what we call burnable material that can get really, really close to the house. Luckily, the fire got stopped behind them. This one shows what we call this like kind of zone 1, your house plus 5 feet. Ideally, and when we talk about embers can't drop in, or little matches light something on fire. This rock, this gravel is an excellent example of how to protect your home from fire. Recently, just last week, we had fires burn, structures burn, on a small fire. And something like this much, would have stopped those small flames from hitting the structure. You always lose homes to big flames like you see in TV and the news. A lot of times it's the small flames.
Well, you know, as a landscape architect, I'll look at this. You even have green grass, but some walkways around there and showing off the rock around the foundation. And that's a well-protected area, am I correct?
It's beautiful. It's well protected. Actually, planning your landscape from get-go will help you have a beautiful home, beautiful landscape, and fire safe.
Well, and I think that is real important, and thank you, Vinny, for those pictures, because that gave us an idea of that's the preferred ideal situation. But there was one phrase that we said in the beginning: understand and believe and know what to do where you live. Now, I made a comment before we went on air. I said, well, just because you have a paved street out in front of you, that doesn't mean that the fire is not going to come to your home. I mean, it can burn green leaf trees, right?
If it gets enough heat, it can burn anything, including your house.
Okay, well, and understand that. And I can go back and think about, in fact, I just saw my insurance policy. It said type of roof from the insurance company, and it said composite. It used to have shakes. I mean, we used to build the homes with shakes.
Yeah.
It's natural looking, I know, folks, but guess what? What a hazard that can be. So if you have shakes, remove them. That's my issue, right?
One thing fighting fire for the last almost 30 years in this area, we don't nearly have as many shake roofs anymore because they burned up.
Well,
really, I'm serious. I hate to say that. We laugh right now, but a lot of them have just actually burned up, and big fire after big fire. We pick them out, and those are the cedar shake roofs a lot of time.
Well, you know, and Guy and I, like I said, we have been around together on different fires that we've seen. And you are correct. Some of the areas of a natural setting, a beautiful home that was there, it had the cedar and it had the cedar roof. As you said, it's not there. And so you just can't say, well, it's not going to happen to me, right?
Yeah.
It can happen. Ever so true. So, folks, what we're trying to tell you today is being prepared is the most important thing. There's a 30-foot strip. Usually they say that a person should always keep clear as much as you can from your home, especially if it's sitting up on a hill. I mean, for the wind, the draft, I mean, all these things. And again, maybe you can speak to that. I mean, keep it clean.
We call that the lean, clean, green zone. 30 feet is trying to protect your house from what we call radiant heat. So when fire burns at your house, like the fire from a campfire, you don't that radiant heat trying to protect your house.
Radiant
that gives us that buffer. And so you're looking for things that won't readily burn. A bush that stays green all year. Also, bushes that may not have chemicals in it, like the junipers have a chemical content that makes them burn faster.
Well, they'd burn well, folks.
They burn very, very well. So you can have your yard, it can be your garden, your landscape. We just don't want things that are dead, dying, that are easily ignitable. So something that stays green during the summer.
Well, you know, I'm also going to say, folks, that it'll even help on yard keeping because you won't have a stash of leaves and weeds behind these shrubs next to your house, right?
Yes.
And so, because that's just more of this fuel, the kindling is what you're referring to. And I think we need to understand and be aware of what is taking place when that happens, because it'll gather and we say, well, yeah, I meant to get to that, but I didn't quite get there. Well, guess what? The fire came and it took care of that one at that particular point. So let me ask a few other things. Are there a few tips that you want to pass on from your line of view from being a Department of Natural Resource person?
Yeah, one of the first tips is, like, before you go on vacation, do a walk around your property.
Okay.
Look for that kindling, anything that you'd use to start a campfire around your house, because an ember can land and start a fire. So just do a quick walk around, just like you do a security check before you leave. Check for those little fire things, because those are things you can do instantly. 5 or 10 minutes, take them up and make a big difference. So that's step one.
Okay. Step 2, any other
Step
thoughts?
2 is looking at your yard and garden. Make sure it's maintained right now. It takes a little more work.
Yep.
But look at doing that right now before the 4th of July and seeing, are my shrubs healthy? Are they going to get water? Do you have this 30-foot zone around my house? And maybe doing a little work there.
I'm always saying, to the point I said to my folks and to other people, I said, have a garden hose hooked up on the outside perimeter, just in case.
That can always help. The other thing is when you have some water, expecting to use water, remember, anytime we have a wildfire, expect the power to go out. So if you're on a well system, have a backup generator, because that's the first thing that goes usually to homes is the power during a wildfire.
Well, you know, in our area that we live here, there's a lot of viewing people here at this particular show is going to say, you know, I do live in this outside area. I do live in this outside perimeter where fires can come in. And I think back when the Ponderosa fire came in, what, 91, 93?
91.
91. I mean, it started on the outside perimeter, but it came all the way through the middle of a major housing area. So we need to understand, just because we have pavement around us and there's other homes around us doesn't mean we're not going to have a problem. So again, being prepared is the most important thing. The other thing is at my own home, I set up a little corner of my home down the basement of a few items. I said, irregardless of what happens, if I'm not here, take this pile with you. It's keepsakes, it's items, because when you're coming around the door and you're saying it's time to evacuate, you don't mean tomorrow, you mean now.
Yes, and the other thing with any time of wildfire, having a plan. How do I talk to my kids? How do I talk to my parents? How do we make a connection when we can't get back to our house? Where's a meeting spot or a phone number that everyone can call to check in? And so that's part of the planning, what you're saying. And we'll keep those keepsakes are a priority, because what's really valuable to every homeowner is not my personal opinion, not the home. It's the pictures, the mementos. Those are irreplaceable.
They are so true. Again, can you give us the phone number? We're right at the end of our show here, and I want to have people, if they have other questions. What is the phone number again that they can call?
Our Colville office, 509-684-7474.
Folks, this has been a great time to be a little bit serious. It gives us some time to think. I know today it's kind of cool and it feels good out there. But just be aware of that things can change instantly, right, Guy? I mean,
we are that place of the season where any week now we're going to go from moderate to high to extreme very, very quickly.
Well, if you drive through the woods right now and you'll see this little Smokey the Bear, he's on low right now, but...
Moderate.
Oh, moderate.
He's already at moderate.
Oh, my gosh, he already raised up a little bit. So, again, it's doing what Guy said. It can change instantly. We have to be aware of it and be prepared, and that is the most important thing. So, Guy, I want to say thank you for coming in. I know our viewing audience is saying the same thing, because guess what? I didn't think it's time. It's time now, folks. You get with it. So until next time, I'm Clyde Hosey, Guy Gifford with Department of Natural. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for
because maybe
me
we can help one or two other people that they can say thank you, Guy. So with that in mind, we'll see you next time on House to Home. I'm Clyde Hosey. Thank you again, Guy.
House to Home with Clyde Hosey is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask Clyde a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. House to Home is brought to you each week by Avista and Rada Paint. You can turn your house into a home. We're here to help. Thanks for listening to Spokane Talks Online.